Genesis Project, Fall of the Kashna, Agents of Shadows, by Aaron Michael Smith. Before time was recorded, beings of light walked the stars. Then one day they breathed life into the universe. It was their legacy, a great project, Genesis Project. First Age of the Kashna. 0 New Kashna Calendar to 10,000 New Kashna Calendar. The First Age of the Kashna is the era of the Kashna Republic that spans the cycles from the time that the ancient prophet Dishar found the Kashna and led them after the fall of the Lut Empire to the Heaven's Gate disaster in 10,000 New Kashna Calendar. During this time, the Kashna Republic becomes the leading power of the 4 galaxies, and the Kalek become its noble warriors and protectors. The events in this story take place 1,000 years before the Heaven's Gate disaster. Prologue. Traveler of Shadows. Some said of him that Nelon Grey Sorrow started out as a broken man, that he never knew a time when he was whole. If such a thing can be considered true, it would seem his name is most fitting, perhaps a case of the universe's irony. From the opening of The Man of Sorrow, A History of Nel Sorrow, by Felk Sin. Universe Octavia, Aran Sidal. Aran Sidal's starfighters streaked across the sky over a broken sphere. The sphere was their homeworld, Aran Sidal itself. The sleek, silvery ships sliced this way and that, firing away with angry yellow pulsar blasts. The Mugrim ships had them outnumbered and outgunned, and they were closing. Captain Tig Weir rolled his ship's starboard, gloved, furry hands gripping tightly to the control yoke. His green cat eyes scanned space, and his furry triangle ears laid flat against his head inside his helmet. His whiskers twitched, and he bore his fangs as another gray, sphere-shaped Mugrim ship bore down on him, weapons slicing away from the glowing blue ring that bisected the sphere's 2 hemispheres. Pushing the nose of his ship down, Tig channeled more thrust to his engines and roared under the Mugrim ship, rolling and twitching his thrusters to avoid the enemy blasts. "Go, Blacks!" the Aran Sidal cried in frustration, and opened up with pulsar blasts on a Mugrim ship directly in front of him, blowing the small sphere to bits. "Captain, it's getting too hot out here," Insir, his wingmate, said through the comm, and he glanced only a moment out his starboard side, glimpsing her ship as she blasted away some Mugrim. A trio of spheres dropped down from one of the bigger motherships and streaked after her, blasting away like crazy. "Een, you have bogies on your tail." "I see 'em," the woman growled. "You want to find out how much longer we have to have our butts out in the air like this, Captain? An alarm sounded, and there was a flicker of pseudo-movement high above the world. With suddenness, the largest sphere yet appeared over the planet, and from a port on the bottom, it started sending blue blasts of powerful pulsar energy toward the surface. "They're bombing the capital!" Een cried. "Where the hell is this guy Rupert promised?" Tig roared, and then a pulsar blast hit his fighter and blew it to smithereens. The lights in the underground bunker flickered, and dust rained down in little plumes, leaving the ceiling as it shook, rattling the stone walls all around, as pulsar blasts from space bombarded the capital. Rupert let his blue cat eyes slide upward, and his ears flattened against his head. There were peeps and murmurs of fear around him, and he looked about at the broad room he occupied, with several hundred others. There were hundreds of rooms like this bunker. "They're leveling the city!" a voice shouted, and Rupert turned, his striped orange fur rippling as he did. A large gray Aran Sidal was marching toward him. The man was a brute, 2 meters tall and bulky with muscle, made to look even more so because his fur was thick and bushy. As big as he was, though, the soldiers flanking him were even bigger. "Did you hear me, Rupert?" Bellamy roared, baring his fangs. "The Mugrim supership has arrived, and they're leveling the capital." "He'll be here," Rupert said, patting the air with his furry hands. "I promise, he'll be here." "We could have gotten out, taken the ships, ran for it," Bellamy spat at Rupert. "But you said wait. You said your White Knight would ride in and save us." "He will." "He won't! And we're trapped under a city on a planet surrounded by Mugrim. The only reason we held out is because you said he'd come." Bellamy hit Rupert in the face with a big furry hand, knocking him to the floor. Another bombardment from above shook the room. Rupert's head was spinning. He tasted blood in his mouth. He felt himself being hauled to his feet, and he saw Bellamy in front of him, glaring, ears flat, fangs bared. "If we're going to die down here," the man yowled, "I'm going to make sure you're the first to go." Bellamy raised his right hand, and claws extended from his fingers. He drew his arm back, and Rupert tried to run, but the soldiers caught him and held him tight. There was a flicker of light overhead, and Rupert looked up with the others. The Arancidal's heart rose into his throat when he saw the whisper image above him. Mandragora had never looked prettier. The ginger-haired woman was in dark trousers and a matching top. Her purple eyes were twinkling. She looked straight at Rupert, and she smirked. "We're here," she said. The soldiers dropped Rupert, and a cheer rang out through the bunker.
"Master!"
a cone-shaped Moogrim cried in its high-pitched, raspy voice as it floated hurriedly into the throne room. The Moogrim was broadest at the bottom, and a hover pad glowed with the same blue light as there was in the creature's single eye. The Moogrim was a cybernetic life form, a creation Selethipid had fashioned himself. The prune-faced man looked up from his throne, his hood hanging over his face. He wore blue and red, and his acid yellow eyes seemed to glow out from the shadows of his hood as he glared at the Moogrim before him. The creature stopped at the foot of the dark plinth where Selethipid's throne was set. Behind him was a round window, and outside the Moogrim fleet was blasting away the last remnants of the Arancidal fleet, while his supership Arasil leveled the capital below.
"What is it, you thrice-damned tin can? I'm moments away from my victory. After we vaporize the bunker, we'll have—" "You have a transmission!"
the Moogrim cut in. Selethipid scrunched up his face in disgust.
"What?"
he croaked. The Moogrim turned, and a beam of light flowed from his single eye, forming into a whisper image of a man with white hair and wrinkles on his face. He wore a blue suit and held a black cane in one hand. His ridiculous, bright blue suit was annoying as ever, but not so much as the hard look in his ugly face. Slowly, Selethipid rose from his throne. He glared down at the whisper image of the Shadow Traveler, and he growled,
"Nell Sorrow."
"Selethipid," Nell responded coolly. "This planet is under my protection."
"Your protection?"
Selethipid hissed. "Leave now while you still can," Nell warned. Selethipid laughed.
"You overplay your hand, my old nemesis,"
the man said, and he snapped his fingers. Another projection sprouted from his Moogrim, and Selethipid was shown an image of his fleet, how they surrounded the planet, and amongst it all was a speck of a ship. The image zoomed in on Nell's Shadow Traveler ship. It was smooth, with elegant lines and curves, like some undersea creature carved from wood, a living vessel from a hidden world. What Selethipid wouldn't do to find that world and wipe out every last Shadow Traveler in existence?
"The meddling scum! You come to me alone and make threats?"
Selethipid snarled at Nell.
"I will blast you from the sky and put you out of my misery, and then I will take from the core of this world the shard of a Genesis engine."
"That shard keeps this world alive. This is a special world, an eternal world. You cannot have it, Selethipid."
"I think you cannot stop me,"
the other sneered. "You don't imagine I would come here alone, do you?" Nell growled. Flickers of light preceded other Shadow Traveler ships appearing. In a moment, counting Nell's ship, there were 15 of them. Selethipid's skin crawled and his blood ran cold. "It took me a while to gather up all of my other selves," Nell said with a smirk. "But we're here, all of us, and all of us have brought friends, and they have brought friends." A ragtag fleet of hundreds started leaping out of Hyperion space, filling the sky over Arancidal. Then there were hundreds more. More still came. There were more Shadow Traveler ships. There were vessels from Ikambandu, ships belonging to the Crimson Maidens of Delarian, and so many others. The vessels opened fire, cutting to pieces Selethipid's fleet. A conflagration of utter destruction surrounded him, and in a moment, as he stared with wide eyes, he watched his entire fleet wiped out of existence. Only he and his Moogrim on his supership remained. "Now," Nell said in a dark snarl, "because I don't have the stomach to deal with you right now, I give you this one chance. Run. Run and don't look back, or the only justice you will know today is death."
You can't kill me, Silithipid chortled. I have an alliance with the Overdon Council, even though I broke the terms. If you kill me, you will inspire their wrath. I don't think you want the Overdon Council coming after you and all of your disgusting misfits. Test me, Silithipid, Nell snarled. Please, test me.
A horrid chill suffused the man's body. Nell wasn't playing around. Silithipid knew him well enough to know that. He bowed his head curtly to the Shadow Traveler and gave the order. His ship streaked away into Hyperion space, and he did as Nell told him. He ran, and he didn't look back. The Shadow Traveler had won today. All debts would be settled at a later date. The cheering was almost deafening in the bunker, and tears leaped from Rupert's eyes as the realization of what they'd all just witnessed settled in. They were safe. A shadow fell over the Catman, and he looked up. Bellamy stood over him, frowning. Then he winced and held out a hand, pulling Rupert to his feet. He patted Rupert roughly on the arm, chuckled, and then walked away to join the growing revelry. Rupert grabbed his aching jaw, smirked, and then looked up. "Thanks," he whispered. "Thanks, Traveler of Shadows." Thanks for listening. If you liked it, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. There will be more episodes coming soon. Copyright 2020 Aaron Michael Smith. All rights reserved. No part of this publication may be reproduced, stored in a retrieval system, or transmitted in any form or by any means, electronic, mechanical, photocopying, recording, or otherwise, without written permission of the author. Genesis Project Fall of the Kashna, Agents of Shadows is a work of fiction. Names, places, and incidents either are products of the author's imagination or are used fictitiously. Ravania Entertainment and Ravania Entertainment logos are copyright 2020 Aaron Michael Smith.